Thank you, Derek. All right, how's everyone doing? Good, I see some smiles, I'll take that. Before we get started, a quick poll. Who here, you or your teams, are directly working with first-party data? Modeling, segmentation, all right, cool, a couple shy hands. And then who here, your teams are indirectly working with first-party data? So you're being enabled, whether you're on the marketing side, creative, okay, less hands, great. And who here does not like it when moderators do polls? Okay, cool, all right, it's honest, I like it. My name is Kosta Demopoulos, VP of Data and Digital Media Consulting at Monks. If you don't know Monks, we are a digital-first marketing services firm started by Sir Martin. Everything from content to media, data, and technology. And what my team focuses on is making sure data has a fair seat at the table. We help build data-driven strategies to make your marketing program smarter. Everything from data warehousing to data management, CDP implementation, and all the very fun things in between. But I want to give a moment for Randip to introduce himself.
Thanks, Kosta. Thanks to Brand Innovators for having us here. So my name is Randip Mitra. I'm the head of data strategy for Kenvue. Kenvue, also known as formerly Johnson & Johnson Consumer Products Company, and look forward to this conversation about first party.
Yeah, and what we're going to talk about is the work we've been fortunately doing with you for a few years now, which is building a industry-leading, global, privacy-compliant ad tech solution built in-house to help be more efficient with the use of first-party data through modeling, segmentation, and measurement. So with that, let's get started. It's old news. Third-party cookies are a little bit on hold now from the deprecation perspective. And so I know you may have been asked this question in the past, but would love to hear, with the news by Google, has that changed any of your plans?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked this question actually by Google at a meetup like this, slightly smaller than this, 2 days after the news came out. So the answer is probably going to be the same now as I had at the time, slightly tweaked probably. But, in short, as we all know, the addressable inventory programmatic has been going down steadily for Safari and for Firefox for 4 or 5 years now, right? And so now with this Chrome news and this move towards user preference settings, I think the good thing is that the advertisers have a little bit more time to react, and this window they can use it for really building up their first-party ecosystem, and also lean into AI, machine learning. But the overall the destination is still the same, right? We need to move towards kind of a third-party independent, right, a more consented marketing approach.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I know we've been investing in that strategy and building something for whether it happens now and now that it's not, we're still going to be built for the future, which is great. So looking a little bit forward, you've been investing in first-party data for a number of years now, the architecture around it, use of it. Can you comment on what has been the most challenging part? Has it been the collection, working with legal teams, working with your colleagues across Kenvue?
Yeah, all of the above. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in this room can attest to this. Is like, when you're working with first-party ecosystem, from collection to, consented collection to segmentation, work different markets. We're a global company. We probably should have said that. Obviously, we are in all the major markets around the world. So you have different requirements, different consent requirements. You have to work with the different, legal teams, procurement teams, sometimes in-house, sometimes at the partners, like Google, Trade Desk, and others. So definitely a lot of, resources has to be dedicated there, and challenge definitely comes there. But then even after that, right, once you build the products and you have the things, in front of your marketers and audience managers and others, you still have to work with your agency, right, to test and learn and to kind of show the success that you need. So I'd say it's a good challenge, an opportunity. I shouldn't want to just say it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge that hopefully, most marketers are taking advantage of right now. But definitely there is challenge, especially in a global privacy-centric world these days, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you say things like test and learn, because I think, on the Monks side, there's this idea of, hey, let's go do this right away. I want to see the ROI immediately. And with, with the evolving technology and sort of the changing landscape, it's important to test and learn, dedicate budget to understand what you're going to do and make sure the measurement's in place to see if it, in fact, is doing what you're hoping it is. So dialing in a bit onto Kenvue, what are some of the marketing activities that you have been a part of that you think are the most exciting, the most novel, the most sort of genuinely new, especially in the context of more and more AI case studies and first-party case studies every day?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I know it's absolutely new. I'm sure some other companies are probably doing some of this, other CPGs. But I think since our separation from J&J Consumer, as mentioned publicly by our CEO and others, is that we are focused on obviously maximizing our reach of our category buyers. So we are kind of approaching most of our marketing projects through the lens of that, of course, with a balanced and optimized ROI in place. So I would say that is one of the things that we're doing. In terms of your question around how is it different than others, I think probably better to talk about what happened 4 or 5 years back when we started on this journey with Media Monks, is that we saw other Fortune 500 companies, not all of them, but many of them, leaning towards off-the-shelf, CDP, DMP solutions. And we decided to use kind of in-house, build the capability in-house with Media Monks, unify the data. And I think that was probably set us for a good foundation at a global level. Again, some markets have their individual, some other data stacks, but overall this global platform really helped us to, build a strong foundation and those applications you need on top of those. And I think in some of the recent, commentary we got from other power partners like Google and Trade Desk, it seems like we are one of the first few CPGs, not the very first, using AI and machine learning on audience creation side, value-based bidding side, on segmentation, on customer lifetime value across the board, which is a great thing. So I would say that is different.
It's interesting. I think what I'm hearing is very much quality of data is really, really important. And from our side, I think quality of data has both top line and bottom line impact. From the top line, growth, making sure you can understand your data, and bottom line is being more efficient with understanding your data. So can you speak a little bit to the impact of understanding your consumer is having on your marketing?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, we talk about that all the time. So it's really, because we are a CPG brand, right? A lot of the time, the user journey for many of you also starts with, Google search or retailer search on Amazon. So really understanding what are the keywords our consumers are coming from, right? What kind of content they're interacting with, right? I'm just keeping it a bit high level here, but what are they doing? What are the actions they're taking? Are they downloading coupons? Are they going to certain retailer sites from a website? And what kind of time of the day, or for a seasonal brand like Zyrtec, right? Which is something everyone in this room is familiar with. It's a seasonal brand, but it's also, there are a lot of people who are light sufferers, heavy sufferers, right? So being able to understand the content they're interacting with, how they're searching and coming to our site, or even if they're not coming to our site, overall search trends on Google, which can be seen, it really helps us to understand, right, the seasonal trends, how should we tweak our, messaging, promotions, and that's what the brand market development teams does a lot of these days. So I think it's very key to understanding the consumers, and as much of the data signals you can read in, including data signals from the bid stream, right? Like a lot of DSPs are sharing some of that, not everyone, but that'd be helpful.
Yeah, we could do a whole other session talking about Bitstream, but I won't bore this audience. So let's shift gears slightly to talk about conversion APIs. So they've been around for a few years now, but are starting to gain in popularity. You've worked with conversion APIs for a number of years now. Can you take us through some of the pros, cons, challenges, maybe anything you would change?
Yeah, sure. I just want to make sure everyone here in this room understands Conversion API. I'm sure most does. So Conversion API, or also known as CAPI, short form. Every ad vendor has one. I'm sure from Meta to Trade Desk to Amazon, Pinterest, TikTok, everyone has a CAPI. Before I get into the pros and cons, CAPI, or Conversion API, the way we think about it is kind of your way of sending a fire hose of all events happening on your website to your ad partners, like, could be, obviously non-Google ecosystems mostly, like a Meta or a Trade Desk. That's what Conversion API is. Now, as for the pros and cons, I think it sounds like the same for every partner, but actually, as we have looked into this, we have come to realize it's quite different depending on what is the endpoint, right? So, a partner like Meta, I think was one of the first to kind of look into Conversion API, if I'm not wrong. So they obviously have a lot of first-party data. They also were first in the market. So their Conversion API is probably at a slightly more different stage than some other vendors, right? So at the end of the day, yes, implementation does require some, kind of careful thought process. But overall, more than the implementation is the partner with whom you're doing the conversion API or CAPI. And I think some of the vendors who had less first-party data or still has less first-party data or building their own ID graphs, I think they may have a little bit less of a CAPI in the CAPI race. But I think they're catching up, and I think hopefully they'll get to a better rate. But the pros and cons is really about the match rate. So the vendor with a higher match rate for your website data will have the best CAPI from your perspective.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's complex too. Has been a big part of the challenge in increasing adoption.
Yeah.
So we'll do a magic wand question. If you could do anything as it relates to increase your ability to collect first-party data with time and resources not really a constraint, what would you do?
Yeah, probably people in the Kenvue here knows this answer, but I'll probably get more first-party data, volume, and then probably the quality, right? So by volume, I mean, ideally, you said no constraint, right? So I'd probably like to be in front of every possible consumer touch point, right? Whether it's through QR codes, of course, the brand and the teams have to agree to that, but in terms of, whether it's, regular, actual offline conferences, website search, which is some of it we're already doing, but I would like to capture every potential consented first-party data point, every interaction. That's from the volume perspective. And secondly, I think connected to that is the quality of all those points, right? Let's collect the highest quality data points from those channels, right? Whether that's PII, whether it's a little bit deeper signal about particular condition or whatever the consumer is willing to share through an app like we have in some of the areas, or Neutrogena Skin 360 is another function we have. So it really would be volume and quality of the first-party data.
Yeah, I'm glad, again, to talk about quality. Now, we know it's really important to establish and maintain quality standards, whether that's implementing sort of the guide and then also being able to automatically or semi-automatically measure adherence to that. But can you speak to some of the challenges on the brand side related to establishing quality standards?
Yeah, that's a big topic, right? And by the way, it probably gets even more complicated because we're operating in a multi-country environment. Like, for example, we have Tylenol here as well as in Brazil and in Canada. So we want to make sure that the taxonomy, the data standards, the campaign standards is consistent across the board. And it's easier said than done. We have made a lot of progress and headways in that, but overall there's still a lot of headwinds sometimes, right? Because at the end of the day, when we have a new channel that opens up, a new type of CTV, new market, right? Maybe it's not new for US, you have to make sure the data standards is there. And that's actually where also I think a company like Media Monks and others can help, CPGs to make sure that the taxonomy is being followed. I think the internal data science team has been doing some work on that in trying to use machine learning to really improve and identify any kind of inconsistency in the taxonomy.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So if we look into your first-party data crystal ball, and we think about the consumers and them trying to be, perhaps see fewer ads and being more privacy considerate, what do you think will start to happen? Will there be, a greater exchange of value on websites with branded content? Will there still be, desire from brands to collect as much first-party data as possible?
I think the desire will be there. I think at the end of the day, I think you talked about, I think we definitely have to be where the consumers are. If it is a website, if it is, search, we have to be in all the channels where we can be, and including, we have to probably tag and measure certain medias where we are getting the DSP feeds and stuff like that. But overall, at the end of the day, the way I think about it is that if, we know our consumers very well, right? And we know, based on history, right, what they did the year before, the next wave of allergy consumers are going to behave in somewhat in a similar way, right? So we want to make sure that we are prepared for that, right? Things might change, the digital channels, but the allergy consumers, their need and solutions are kind of the same. So I think we need to be prepared for that, be ready, and the deeper understanding, the other question you asked before, it really will help us to be, properly allocated for the right channels, right, at the right moment, right? And then also maximize reach with relevant ads, because that's also important along with reach, right, to be relevant. So,
yeah, for allergy season, probably have relevant ads year long here in New York, New Jersey. I feel like it's a never stop allergy season. Anyways, I do want to hit a couple quick questions before we open it up to the floor. So best and worst tech platform you've worked with?
all platforms have good and bad sides.
That might be the most politically correct answer in the election cycle, so that's fine. We'll go on. Thing you wish someone would say on stage at a conference?
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, we also, we skip ads. We don't watch some ads on YouTube, so we don't say that, but yeah.
Fair, yeah. I didn't say that, you did. And I know I've always appreciated your perspective because you've, in your career, been on both the buy side and sell side. Which did you prefer, the buy side or sell side?
How many people are here from the buy side and sell side, I guess, depends. But no, actually, I would say, not because I'm in the role right now, I would say buy side.
Yeah.
Okay, make sure, yeah, buy side, yeah. Because I'm on the buy side right now. I've been on sell side a few years, but I think buy side definitely gives you a different kind of a brand level kind of POV. Sell side has its pluses as well, but I just feel like slightly outweighs the buy side to be on the buy side.
I'm glad you're on the buy side as well.
Okay.
And then last one is 3 things you want to leave the audience with related to what's working with first-party data and machine learning.
What's working with first-party data? I would say simplified approach. I would say focus on scale. And we are trying, by the way, all of this, not that everything's done. And third, I would say, a supportive culture for data, right? Because you need that, right? Across the board, people to be open to ideas and things like that around data, new experimentation, new models, new, tagging, new collections. So I would say this, right? What did I say? Scale, supportive culture, and what was the first thing I said? I forgot, but yeah. Okay, that's it.
No, and I think I'm glad you said data-driven culture because yes. We've seen in the past couple of years it become more of a forefront with leaders is creating a data-driven culture, creating feedback loops, being audience-first, consumer-minded, and trying to just make all of our lives and jobs a little bit easier. So with that, I think we have time for 1 or 2 questions to see if anyone has any. Okay, yes. The question was, as it relates to getting data from Bitstream, what is your ideal scenario? What is it that you are looking for?
Yeah, I mean, not to get into the 2, proprietary use cases we are evaluating. I think it's to understand, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure, I think all of us wants to make sure we're reaching new consumers, right? Coming into the category, we are reaching the right people. We're not over, frequency on certain segments. And also, the consumer behavior to the creative, right? Because I know we didn't talk about creative much here, but that definitely is an important part, right? To understand the different behavior in relation to the creative from the same type of audience for same type of brand. I think it's very important. So I think that, sure.
Good question. And I think that is it. Thank you, Brand Innovators, and thank you, Randip, for spending time with us this morning.
Thank you.